I caught my wife cheating on our 10-year anniversary with her boss, and then I knew her true face. I'm Ben, a 35-year-old hardworking construction worker. Yesterday was supposed to be Meghan and my 10th wedding anniversary. 10 years is a long time. It's been 10 years of love and dedication. I always believed with all my heart that I had built a perfect little home. But in just the blink of an eye, everything shattered. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless with pain. That's how I felt when I discovered what had happened. I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams that the betrayal was happening right there in my wife's office, a place I thought was safe and professional. And on our 10th anniversary, the day I believed would mark the highest point of happiness, I had planned to surprise her and kick off a romantic anniversary evening. Little did I know, I was the one who would receive the most horrific gift of my life. This is the story of that fateful day, the day everything in my life fell apart. Last Thursday was our 10th anniversary. Like any other day, I was up by 6 a.m., made breakfast for both of us, and headed to the construction site to start my workday. That's just how my job is. When the weather's good, I'll work 12 hours or even more to make up for the rainy days. That particular morning, around mid-morning, it started to pour down rain. The downpour was so heavy it made the site dangerous, so the whole crew was sent home. I went home and, as usual, I headed to the gym for an hour or two. But that day, after a while, I suddenly felt restless. I cut my workout short, deciding to go straight to Meghan's office. I wanted to give her a little surprise. We hadn't had much chance to see each other all week because Meghan's work was busy and my hours were unpredictable. I thought I'd buy a gorgeous bouquet of flowers, bring them to her office, and then see if we could go out to celebrate our anniversary that evening. The thought of seeing Meghan happy and surprised when I showed up with the flowers made my heart flutter. I was eagerly anticipating her reaction, waiting for my wife's radiant smile. I drove to our usual flower shop, picked out the most beautiful bouquet, and had it carefully wrapped. It was around 12:30 p.m. I arrived at Meghan's office building, walked into the lobby, still feeling lighthearted. Nicole, the receptionist, was at the front desk. I greeted her. "Hi, Nicole, I'm a bit later than I wanted to be. Could you help me put this bouquet on Meghan's desk?" Nicole looked at me with a smile and innocently replied, "Oh, Ben, I don't think they've gone to lunch yet. Why don't you take it to her yourself?" Normally, Nicole would ask me to wait at the counter and call Meghan out. I wasn't sure why she was being so lenient today. Hearing her words, I grew even more excited. I nodded, "Thanks." Nicole buzzed me through to the office area. The entire floor was deserted, not a soul in sight. Everyone must have gone to lunch. I quickly walked toward Meghan's office. The door was ajar, not locked. So, taking advantage of the opportunity, I gently pushed the door open without a word to make the surprise even more surprising. And that surprise was for me. That moment, it was like a slow-motion film. My heart practically stopped. My whole body went rigid. Inside the office, Meghan wasn't working. She was leaning against her desk, giggling and utterly flirtatious. And a man, some guy I'd never seen before, was standing behind her, caressing her neck. Meghan's arms were wrapped around the back of his head. She even whispered something to him loud and clear. "We need to finish this quickly." Her tone wasn't about work. It implied something far more disgusting. This punch to my gut was even harder than the first time I found out the truth about her. My vision blurred. I couldn't speak. All sounds in my head vanished, replaced only by the frantic pounding of my heart, threatening to burst from my chest. I forcefully threw the bouquet at the door, gritting my teeth as I choked out one sentence, "Happy 10th anniversary." My voice was broken, filled with bitterness and devastation. And the beautiful bouquet I had so carefully held crashed onto the marble floor, its petals scattering, as shattered as my happiness. The two of them jumped, startled, looking at me. I clearly saw the horror in her eyes, and the other guy's awkwardness too. But in an instant, he quickly regained his composure. He suddenly raised an eyebrow at Meghan, full of insinuation. Then he casually uttered a remark, his tone dripping with contempt. "What's this? Your boyfriend, Meghan? Didn't you say he was out of town?" He looked at me, his eyes as if he were looking at a beggar who had just crashed an elite party. Meghan, my wife, didn't say a word to me. She just stood there, looking at me with eyes. I can't even describe them, but it was as if I didn't exist. She just stammered something, trying to justify herself to him. I didn't hear anything else she said. I didn't need to hear it. Who that guy was didn't matter either. I turned my back, walking away like a ghost. Passing Nicole, I mumbled thanks and goodbye, without daring to look her in the eye. I rushed into the elevator, feeling like the whole world was spinning. As soon as I stepped out of the building, my phone started ringing frantically. I knew it was Meghan, but I didn't want to answer. I didn't want to hear anything from her anymore. I floored the gas pedal, tearing out of the parking lot like a madman. Tears streamed down my face, salty and hot. The streets, houses, and trees blurred past my eyes like a fast-forwarded film. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to go, had to escape this hell. My head felt like a pressure cooker, every thought, every memory swirling in chaotic disarray. You see, Meghan and I, we came from two completely different worlds. I grew up in a true working-class neighborhood, surrounded by my grandpa Joe and my mom. My grandpa, well, he was an old-school Iron Man. He taught me everything there was to know, from how to properly hold a hammer and chisel to how to treat a woman. The two of them jumped, startled, looking at me. I clearly saw the horror in her eyes, and the other guy's awkwardness too. But in an instant, he quickly regained his composure. He subtly raised an eyebrow at Meghan, full of insinuation. Then he casually uttered a remark, his tone dripping with contempt. "What's this? Your boyfriend, Meghan? Didn't you say he was out of town?" He looked at me, his eyes as if he were looking at a beggar who had just crashed an elite party. Meghan, my wife, didn't say a word to me. She just stood there, looking at me with eyes that I can't even describe. But it was as if I didn't exist. She just stammered something, trying to justify herself to him. I didn't hear anything else she said. I didn't need to hear it. Who that guy was didn't matter either. I turned my back, walking away like a ghost. Passing Nicole, I mumbled thanks and goodbye, without daring to look her in the eye. I rushed into the elevator, feeling like the whole world was spinning. As soon as I stepped out of the building, my phone started ringing frantically. I knew it was Meghan, but I didn't want to answer. I didn't want to hear anything from her anymore. I floored the gas pedal, tearing out of the parking lot like a madman. Tears streamed down my face, salty and hot. The streets, houses, and trees blurred past my eyes like a fast-forwarded film. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to go, had to escape this hell. My head felt like a pressure cooker, every thought, every memory swirling in chaotic disarray. You see, Meghan and I, we came from two completely different worlds. I grew up in a true working-class neighborhood, surrounded by my grandpa Joe and my mom. My grandpa, well, he was an old-school Iron Man. He taught me everything there was to know, from how to properly hold a hammer and chisel to how to treat a woman. He had a saying for everything, and about marriage, he always drilled this into my head. Marriage is the hardest job you'll ever do, Ben. You have to work on it every single day. Now, God, how I miss him. My family didn't have much money. I clearly remember seeing my mom and grandpa struggling with bills for utilities and rent, but no matter how tough it was, they worked tirelessly, ensuring my siblings and I never lacked anything. Meghan was completely different. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Not the kind of ridiculously rich, but her life was incredibly comfortable. She went to good schools, her clothes were always sharp, and her car was brand new. And honestly, Meghan was beautiful. I mean, an 11 out of 10. When we first met, I used to tease her, saying I was afraid one cough would choke her with that silver spoon. We met by chance, and there was an instant connection, like it was fate. We started dating, and back then, I was foolish enough to wonder why a woman as perfect as her would ever be with me. We dated for quite a while before she opened up about her parents and her lifestyle. Our friends used to call us the model couple, because everyone thought we were beautiful enough to be professional models. My family, on the other hand, wasn't very supportive. They feared our economic differences would cause big problems down the line. Her dad and I eventually grew closer, but my mom took a lot of convincing before she finally came around. Then Meghan graduated, got her first job, and we started planning our wedding. We agreed to explore each other's worlds together, a sort of cultural fusion. I took her whitewater rafting and on other adventurous outings she'd never tried. She, in turn, took me to the symphony and fancy parties I never thought I'd set foot in. We went ziplining together, visited art exhibitions, tried all sorts of things. The goal was to experience all of each other's interests. She particularly loved extreme sports. The more dangerous, the better. And I even grew to like those fancy symphonies. Now I own 2 tuxedos. Looking back on all that time, I swear I didn't see any red flags. Meghan quit her first 2 jobs because of men trying to woo her. She would often tell me in detail about old bosses inviting her to private dinners, or being used as a decoration for promotional photo shoots, or getting invited to overseas conferences when other new hires weren't. Meghan quit both of those jobs because her self-respect couldn't tolerate such sordid behavior. At the time, I believed her completely. I truly thought she was a pure flower in a forest of wolves, deserving to be protected from those terrible men. This third job was different. She found a company with female partners, and none of that sleazy stuff. She seemed really happy with this new role, especially when she started her big project. According to her, this major project was a career maker that would help her advance significantly. The pressure at work also increased. She came home later, left earlier, and even worked on weekends. Many times I saw her glued to her computer or phone late into the night. I was understanding. I believed she was working hard for our future. Lately, Meghan had also started paying unusual attention to her appearance. She was constantly buying new clothes, tight-fitting dresses, and silk blouses she'd never worn before. She put on more elaborate makeup, and her perfume was a new, stronger scent. And then there was her phone. It was always by her side or face down, never leaving her for a second. I just thought to myself, she must want to look more presentable now that she's at a new company. But now, looking back, I see how incredibly foolish I was. What I once thought was her diligence and effort turned out to be blaring red flags that I deliberately ignored. Who could have known that it would all lead to such a horrific 10th anniversary? Sitting in the car, I kept replaying the scene with Meghan and that guy, Mark. The way she laughed, the way he touched her, it haunted me, making me want to throw up. Almost 10 years of being together. 10 long years. I dedicated my youth, my energy, and all my trust to building that perfect home I was always so proud of. I worked tirelessly, pouring my sweat and tears into it. I put Meghan above everything else, trusted her completely, even defended her from whispers and warnings. And this is what I got in return: a spectacular betrayal, the cruelest infidelity on our very anniversary. I felt disgusted with myself for being so foolish, so blind. I was disgusted with this marriage, disgusted with everything we had. It was all a lie. I drove straight home but didn't go inside. I went directly to the garage, pulling out my camping gear. I needed to disappear. I needed the place where no one could find me, a place where I could breathe. As I frantically grabbed my things, my hand accidentally brushed against my .45 caliber pistol, the one I usually carried when camping for bear protection. I picked it up. It felt ice cold. I stared at the barrel. And you know what? In that moment of utter despair, the most insane thought flashed through my mind. Should I end it all here? Everything was so dark, there was no way out. I just wanted everything to stop. Stop completely. Immediately, I scrambled out of the garage, driving like a madman. I don't remember how long I drove, only that I kept pressing the gas, leaving the suffocating city and recent horrors behind. Finally, I pulled into a familiar state park about 2 hours from home. I often camped here with friends, or sometimes with Meghan. Now, I was alone. I tossed my phone into the trunk, turning it off. I didn't want to hear from anyone, especially Meghan. I just wanted silence. I shouldered my backpack and walked deep into the forest, following a familiar trail for about 3 hours. But I just kept going without thinking. The deeper I went into the woods, the more fresh air I breathed, the less suffocated I felt. I found a secluded spot, sat down, and started setting up camp. I just sat there working with my hands, watching the tall trees, seeing the sky darken, and thinking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat watching the campfire flicker, trying to rewind the tape of our 10-year marriage. Everything I once believed was trust and understanding now seemed like pathetic blindness, and my Grandpa Joe's words kept echoing in my mind. Marriage is hard work. You have to work on it every day. People can forgive all mistakes, except the betrayal of trust, because once trust is lost, you have nothing left to build on. Everything I believed in, all the beautiful memories, were now distorted, tainted by lies. Had Meghan only changed recently, or had I been living with a liar for the past 10 years without knowing it? I doubted everything. By morning, as dawn broke, I felt like I needed to do something. I couldn't just keep hiding like this. I left the park to find cell service. The moment I turned my phone on, it vibrated incessantly. It wasn't just Meghan, it was also Ryan, my closest friend. I called Ryan back. His voice was full of worry. "Ben, where are you? Meghan called me, said you left. She's afraid you'll do something stupid. Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. I briefly told Ryan what happened, keeping it short. Ryan didn't say much, just listened in silence. Finally, I told him, "I need to think this through. I'll meet you on Friday." Ryan's call, though brief, was like a lifeline. It pulled me back from the abyss, but the pain was still there, more intense than ever. I knew this was just the beginning. I decided I had to go home. I needed to face Meghan, even though I was still a chaotic mess inside. I called her. Meghan answered immediately. Her voice sounded tired, but also strangely cold. She said she was at the office, seemingly just finishing a meeting. "I'm at the office. Where have you been?" she asked, as if I had simply disappeared without reason or a word. I guess she stayed there to maintain her facade, to make it seem like she was the victim, the one who had tried to contact me without success. I took a deep breath, trying to control the emotions and the raging fury inside me. I spoke directly. "Where I've been isn't important. What's important is that I want to talk seriously about us right now. I feel like our marriage has been having problems lately. It seems like you're giving too much to your work. Don't you think so?" I tried to be as gentle as possible, even though all I wanted to do was scream. And then she started with the gaslighting I never thought Meghan would use on me. Perhaps this was the true person I had fallen so deeply in love with. "If you won't talk, what am I supposed to do? Do you know how many times I've called you? How worried I've been?" Her voice feigned distress, as if I were the insensitive one, abandoning her in a difficult time. Then she started blaming me back. "You're overreacting, Ben. Do you know how much work pressure I'm under? I'm doing all of this for our future." Hearing this, I just wanted to smash my phone. For our future? Did she think I was stupid? I knew this conversation wouldn't be easy. I needed to stay calm and keep a clear head. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. Meghan promised to be home in an hour. I sat there, staring at the door, a mix of hope and dread churning inside me. I hoped she'd come back to explain so I could understand. I dreaded her return, knowing I'd have to face that deceitful facade again. When she finally arrived, things didn't unfold as I'd imagined. There was no fiery confrontation. Instead, the moment she walked in, she rushed towards me, clinging to me and sobbing like a child, tears and snot streaming down her face. She just kept talking, nonstop. "I'm so sorry, Ben. I'm so sorry. I know I was wrong. I don't know why I did it. He just lured me in. It was just a mistake, a moment of weakness. Please believe me." She clung to me like I was a lifeline, swearing she'd end it immediately and never contact him again. She said she'd do anything for my forgiveness. Looking at her pathetic state then, a part of me wanted to believe, wanted to hold on. But then another part, the deeply wounded part, couldn't trust her. "You don't know why you did it? You don't know? After 10 years together, after everything we'd been through, she said she didn't know why she betrayed me?" Thinking about that, I realized how much the entire room reeked of falsehood. I couldn't find a single logical answer or a reason to explain this betrayal. It was all just blame and justification. I gently pushed her away, trying to keep my expression as calm as possible, and said, "I need time to think, Meghan. I won't talk about this now. We'll talk later." The pain and the lies are tearing me apart. I know if I keep talking right now, I'll lose my composure. I won't be able to control myself. I need a plan to clarify everything and to get out of this situation. The next few days were hell. Meghan and I were in a constant cycle of arguments and tension, utterly exhausted. I tried to stay calm, but she kept offering incredibly flimsy excuses. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," she'd say, her voice weary. "I work myself to exhaustion, and then I come home and you start causing trouble. Don't you think you should try a little harder in this marriage?" As if I were the one who didn't care and neglected our family. She tried to make me the culprit, to find an excuse to absolve herself. I was sick and tired of this deflection tactic. No matter how much she denied it, I couldn't let it go. I waited until she was sound asleep, then secretly took her phone. The screen lit up, and then I saw it. Messages, calls. Mark's name appeared repeatedly in her contacts. It turned out her business trips and client meetings were all dates with that bastard. This affair had been going on for months. Flirtatious messages, disgusting photos, and even the way she compared me to her boss, how one was a successful, wealthy man and the other was a crude, poor builder. I painfully realized that the woman I once loved was gone. In her place was a chain of lies and cold calculations, a transactional exchange of her body to achieve the glamour and success she always wanted with the project. Yes, through those messages, I realized that was the purpose of her change. Meghan had traded 10 years of love and happiness to be elevated by that scoundrel, Mark. There was no moment of impulsivity here. Each time she lied, each time I found new evidence, I felt myself being pushed further away from the woman I once loved. She wasn't the Meghan I knew anymore. A cold and decisive answer formed in my mind. I would leave, silently, decisively. Enough of the noisy arguments and confrontations. I wouldn't give her another chance to put on a show, to manipulate me again. That very night, I began quietly packing my most important personal belongings. I didn't take any of our shared items. The car, the furniture, and the house, they were all shared. I didn't need them. I rented a small storage unit on the outskirts of town and quietly moved my things there, one trip at a time when Meghan was at the office or on business trips. I also sent a few things to Ryan's house as a backup. My best friend didn't ask many questions. He just nodded, patting my shoulder. He understood. I knew this would be a new beginning, a painful one, but also full of hope. Finally, that day arrived. One evening, Meghan said she had to go on an unexpected business trip. I knew exactly what that trip was. I watched her close the door and leave, feeling absolutely nothing inside, just a terrifying emptiness. I walked into the kitchen and placed a piece of paper on the table. Beside it was Meghan's wedding ring. It glittered under the light, but now it was just an inanimate object, a symbol of deceit. I picked up a pen and wrote a few short lines, but they contained everything I wanted to say. "I hope it was all worth everything we had, Meghan. I don't trust you anymore. I'm leaving." That was all. No lengthy accusations, no why questions, because all the answers I needed, I had already found. I walked out of the house I had once called home, the one I had poured so much sweat and tears into building and decorating. As the door closed, I felt an enormous weight lift from me. Yes, a weight. The pain was still there, smoldering within, but at least I no longer had to wear the mask of deceit, no longer had to live in a marriage I knew was rotten from the inside. I drove away without looking back. I knew that from now on, my life would be different. As expected, just a few hours later, when Meghan discovered the letter in the ring, my phone started getting bombed. She began with angry messages, denials, calling me crazy and overreacting. Then she shifted to desperate pleas, long, tearful texts that were frankly disgusting to read. "I'm sorry, Ben. Please come back. Things got out of hand. You've been gone too much. I just made a mistake. You can't leave me." She was still the same, still playing the victim, still making excuses and blaming circumstances, blaming me. I read those messages, no longer feeling anger, only contempt. A few weeks after I left, Ryan told me that Meghan and Mark's affair had blown up at their company. It turned out Mark's wife had discovered everything. She was no pushover. She was the CEO's daughter, and she made sure it became a huge scandal. As a result, Mark was fired immediately. As for Meghan, her highly touted career-making project was suspended, and she was transferred to some insignificant department, losing all her authority. In a short time, Meghan lost everything: her husband, her lover, and even the career and reputation she had worked so hard to build. I don't know the exact details. Her calls and messages to me gradually dwindled, then stopped altogether. I guess she realized I wouldn't be coming back. I didn't give her that chance either. I changed my phone number, I blocked her on all social media accounts, I only left a new email address for divorce purposes. I didn't want any toxicity from her affecting my new life. I needed space, I needed peace to heal. I rented a small house in the suburbs, near a large forest. It wasn't a luxurious home, but it had enough space, a garden, and most importantly, peace. Every morning, I woke up early, breathed in the fresh air, and then went for long walks in the woods. I focused on my work and on restoring my mental health. My construction job kept me busy. Sweating it out always helped clear my mind. After a few months, my lawyer informed me that Meghan had agreed to an uncontested divorce. I accepted all the terms, not asking for anything. I just wanted to get it over with quickly. When the divorce papers were signed, I felt as if an invisible chain had been removed from my neck. It was official liberation. I was no longer Meghan's husband. I was free. Almost a year after that fateful day, my life has stabilized and I found joy in simple things. I still work in construction, still hit the gym, still hike in the woods, or chat with friends on weekends. I truly thought I had completely escaped the shadow of Meghan and my old marriage. But life, as they say, is full of surprises. One Saturday afternoon, I drove into the town near where I used to live to pick up some supplies. I was strolling along an aisle in the supermarket, pushing my cart, wondering what to have for dinner. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice call my name. Ben! Ben! Is that you? My heart sank. I whipped my head around, and there she was, Meghan. She stood there, right in the middle of the aisle, not far from me. I was genuinely shocked by her appearance now. The Meghan of old, the radiant, beautiful, always confident 11/10 woman, was gone. She was terrifyingly thin, her eyes deeply sunken with obvious dark circles. Her hair looked neglected, and the clothes she wore were disheveled and old. She looked so gaunt and pathetic that I almost didn't recognize her. She ran towards me, her gait hurried. I tried to avoid her, pretending not to see her, but it was too late. She was standing right in front of me, breathing heavily. Ben, I finally found you. Do you know how hard I've looked for you? I'm so sorry, Ben. I'm so sorry. And then her tears started to flow again. The familiar act began anew, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, exactly like the day I left. She was still the same. Yet she even suggested, "Honey, let's start over. I still love you so much. Move to another state with me. Let's begin a new life somewhere no one knows who we are, no one will judge." I looked at her, at that pathetic yet manipulative demeanor, and felt nothing but exhaustion. I had come too far to reclaim my peace. I couldn't let her drag me back into that swamp again. I stood there facing Meghan, no longer feeling anger or pain, just an emptiness and a resolute finality. Looking directly into her eyes, I took a deep breath and spoke, my voice dry, devoid of emotion. "You don't have the right to disrupt my life anymore, Meghan. Do you really think anything could change between us after everything?" I paused, letting my words sink in. "You destroyed everything, Meghan. Everything we built over the past 10 years, you tore it down in the blink of an eye." I couldn't hold back anymore. The painful details flooded back. I still clearly remember our anniversary, the day I brought those flowers, and you ruined it all. Today we could have been celebrating our 11th anniversary. Do you know that? I didn't need to say anything more, because the shock in her eyes said it all. Meghan completely collapsed. She sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her choked cries echoed through the crowded supermarket, but I didn't care. She clutched at my legs, begging, pleading, "Ben, please don't. I was wrong. I love you." I gently removed her hands and pulled my leg away. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a small business card. "This is my email address. Only use it for necessary matters. Don't call or text the old number. I've changed it." I handed her the card. It was soaked with her tears. I turned and walked away, straight ahead, without looking back. I left Meghan there in the supermarket aisle amidst the curious stares of everyone around. I knew that was the last time I would see her, at least for a very long time. Stepping out of the supermarket, breathing in the fresh air, I looked up at the clear blue sky. I said to myself, or to anyone listening to this story, I hope she finds peace. I truly do. But my life from now on will have no room for lies. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.